You spent 3 hours going over your notes. You felt ready. Then the exam question appeared and your mind went completely blank. That's not a memory problem, that's a method problem. And it happens to a lot of people who are genuinely trying hard. The hours were real, the effort was real, but the studying wasn't doing what you thought it was doing. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why that blank mind feeling happens. And you'll have one thing you can try tonight to find out how much you actually retained. Here's what most people do when they sit down to study. They open their notes, read through them, something sounds familiar, they nod, they move on. Maybe they highlight a line that feels important. An hour passes. The page looks familiar, they feel like they know it, so they close the notebook and tell themselves, okay, I think I've got this. That feeling is real, but it may be misleading. And that's where the problem starts. When you reread something, your brain recognizes it. Recognition is fast and comfortable. It produces a sense of familiarity, which feels a lot like understanding. But recognition and retrieval are not the same thing. Recognition is seeing someone's face and knowing you've met before. Retrieval is remembering their name. One feels easy. The other is the thing that actually matters when you're sitting in front of a blank exam page. This gap between how well you recognize something and how well you can retrieve it is sometimes called the illusion of competence. Your brain sees the material, registers it as familiar, and sends a signal that feels like, got it. But got it and can produce it under pressure are very different things. Think about the last time you reread the same paragraph 4 times and still couldn't explain it 2 minutes later. That's not your memory failing you. That's what passive review often does. Passive review means your eyes move across the page, but your brain isn't working hard to reconstruct anything. It's just confirming that this looks familiar, a very low-effort task, and your brain tends to conserve energy. When it can get by recognizing instead of retrieving, that's often what it does. So what's the alternative? It's not about studying more hours, it's about asking your brain to do a different kind of work. Instead of reviewing, which means looking at information, retrieval practice means trying to produce the information without looking at it. Close the notes. Reconstruct from memory. That effort, the slightly uncomfortable feeling of trying to pull something out when you're not sure it's there, is closer to what actually builds memory you can access later. Research cited in BMC Medical Education in 2025 found that combining spaced repetition with active recall may improve test performance by roughly 15 to 20% compared to traditional study routines. The key variable wasn't time. It was the type of activity. Here's what active recall can look like in practice. You finish reading a section. You close the book. You take a blank sheet of paper and write down everything you remember about that topic. Not a copy, just whatever comes out. Then you open your notes and compare. The gaps you find, the things you couldn't remember, those are what actually need more work. That's more useful information in 5 minutes than an hour of rereading. Because rereading hides what you don't know behind familiarity. There's also something worth mentioning about how most people organize a study session. The typical approach is, finish one topic completely, then move to the next. That feels logical. But research by Rohrer and Taylor suggests that mixing different topics within a single session, what's called interleaving, may improve test performance significantly compared to studying one topic in a block. The reason may be that it forces your brain to keep identifying which piece of knowledge applies to which problem. A harder task, and harder tasks can build more durable memory. Interleaving feels uncomfortable. Switching topics before you feel settled can feel chaotic. But that discomfort may be a signal your brain is working harder, not that you're doing it wrong. And then there's timing. Rereading the same material multiple times in one night is common. Spacing those same reviews across multiple days tends to be more effective for long-term retention. No app required. Studying something Monday, briefly reviewing Wednesday, and again Friday is often more effective than 3 hours Thursday night. Here's the part that doesn't get talked about enough. Sometimes the reason you can't start studying isn't laziness. It may be that opening the book makes your knowledge gaps visible, and that's uncomfortable. If you avoid starting, you can tell yourself you'd do fine if you tried. The moment you open the book, that story is harder to hold on to. That's not a character flaw. It's a pretty understandable response to something that feels like a test of your intelligence before you've even prepared. A few things worth keeping in mind. These approaches, retrieval practice, interleaving, spacing, tend to show positive results in research, but they don't work the same way for everyone in every context. The subject matters, your schedule matters. There is no single method that guarantees a specific outcome. What the evidence does suggest is that actively retrieving versus passively reviewing is a meaningful variable worth paying attention to. So here's one thing you can do tonight. Pick one topic you think you already know. Close your notes completely. Take a blank page and write down everything you remember. Definitions, connections, examples, whatever comes out. Then open your notes and see what you missed. Whatever you couldn't write, that's what actually needs your attention. Not the whole chapter. Just that. If the blank page feels harder than you expected, that's not a sign you're not smart enough. It's a sign that rereading created familiarity, not memory. And now you know the difference. If this gave you something useful, subscribe. There's more here about how behavior, attention, and the way you approach situations shape what you actually get out of them.